Hi everyone. Last summer I ran a half-day workshop at IRM's Business Analysis Conference Europe entitled Unleashing the Power of Visual Thinking. And I was really pleased with the feedback from that session where I scored 89% and 87% for the content and speaker respectively. And I was even more pleased when IRM got in touch to ask me if I'd be willing to run a full day version of the course this summer. And now we're 2 weeks away from the course, which takes place on the 8th of June. And I just thought it'd be good to pull together this short video to explain a little bit about what the course is going to cover and what you would learn if you were to attend. Okay, so I'm going to practice what I preach now and use visuals to help explain what we're going to cover in the course and the structure for the day. So as I've already mentioned, the title of the course is Unleashing the Power of Visual Thinking, and it's live streaming on the 8th of June. Now, when we're taking in information verbally, we often struggle to kind of consume the message and take all the information in, and you know, that could be in the form of verbal communication, documentation, emails, alerts. There's lots of things that are kind of fighting for our attention, and there's a lot of complexity. And what visual thinking is trying to do is trying to allow us to make sense of what we are kind of hearing and see connections between things to uncover the answers to questions and solve problems. So we're going to talk a bit about that at the start of the course, about what visual thinking is and how it can benefit you. And we're going to explore how visual thinking kind of helps you to create clarity, which I'll represent as this diamond here. We're going to talk about how visual thinking also kind of helps us from a learning perspective in terms of our ability to retain information in our brains and improve memory, retention of information, that kind of thing. And we'll also explore how you can use visual thinking in a kind of group context where teams can kind of explore ideas and solve problems and spark their creativity. So that's kind of all about the backdrop to visual thinking and why it's important. We're then going to move on to the kind of the practical aspects of visual thinking in terms of building blocks that help you to kind of build up your visual literacy, if you like. So there are a number of building blocks we're going to cover, and I'll just run through these now. The first one is the idea of a visual alphabet using simple shapes such as squares and triangles and lines, and being able to combine those elements into I guess images or icons, similar to how letters in the alphabet help us to form words. So we're going to break it down into the simplest level possible so that you can take things like a circle, triangle and a curved line, and you can create an icon quite simply from that. Once we've covered how to draw icons and simple objects, and we've got some confidence built up from that, we'll then move on to explore how can you draw people and people kind of expressing themselves, and we're going to try and again simplify how we do that, but also show you some tricks on how you can then add expression and more realism into your characters once you build up that confidence. The next building block is kind of, once we've got those basics together, we need to learn how to make connections between things. So using arrows and dividers to help connect information or divide information on a page, and also how you can use those abstract shapes to also convey meaning. Then we will cover the idea of different fonts and our ability to kind of express ourselves by using typography and lettering in different ways. And that's really important when you're expressing yourself visually. The best combination is to combine words and images together so that you can communicate your ideas more clearly. And then the last kind of basic element is for us to be able to produce containers that help us to frame information. So in this example I'm doing a little title banner, but something like this here where we've got visual thinking, the word framed by some other content, and you can then combine these elements to start to produce more meaningful visuals. Which leads me on to our next section, which is really how do we combine these elements so I can take these basic icons, basic shapes, connectors, dividers, those kind of things, and produce something from those that's maybe a bit more meaningful, a bit more engaging, and starts to tap into kind of metaphors and storytelling and how to express your ideas. So to kind of illustrate a really simple example here, we could learn how to draw a person with a person pointing at something. But if I then combine that with the idea of icons, so I'm drawing a series of circles here that I'm going to turn into light bulbs that are all kind of illuminating, but they look like a bunch of balloons. So I've now created a bit of a different angle to my visual, and then it's things like this. It's saying, well, these ideas are going to take us on a journey somewhere, and they're going to help us to kind of get to the top of this metaphorical mountain to reach a goal, perhaps. So just a really simple example to kind of illustrate the point. But here we've taken a few simple building blocks, combined them together, and we've created a simple visual. And then we'll go on to explore how you can use different structures in your visuals, so you can kind of express yourself with a kind of a central theme. You can kind of explore visuals by telling a story and a path through that story. You can lay out information in a kind of a more modular way, where you frame your content within these kind of little boxes, those kind of things. And we'll talk a bit about Dave Gray's ideas of when to use different visuals depending on whether you're trying to appeal emotionally, kind of logically to the brain, or on a practical level if you're trying to appeal to the hand. And there are different visuals that become more important or more appropriate depending on what you're trying to do. And then we'll wrap up by showing some examples and working up some examples of how you can bring this together and use all of this to kind of bring your visual thinking skills together to allow you to kind of improve and get more confident in expressing yourself visually. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of what we're going to be covering in the session. The session, like I said, is going to be live streamed on the 8th of June, and I really hope that you guys come along and join in the fun.